All right. Good morning, or should say, wow, good morning. Geez. Good evening to those of you on the East Coast. Good afternoon to those of you on the West Coast. I'm your host, Brandon Troy, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. And thanks so much for joining us for this second episode of SDCC Peeps, Volume 2. If you recall last year, one thing that I figure would be a cool thing to do is, in lieu of Comic-Con having a virtual edition and not really having that communal atmosphere that many of us are accustomed to having when we are going to Comic-Con in person. I figured I would, do a round robin of, many of the folks that I'm fortunate enough to call friends and, have become con fam, so to speak, over the many years. It's hard to believe it's been over, over a decade, well over a decade, and some change of going to Comic-Con. So with that being said, I want to hop into, the second edition of Comic-Con at Home, and I won't be alone to do that. So for this second episode, I want to introduce each of my guests. So first up, I have Aaron Nabus. He is the host of the Hall H Show, a podcast. Let me bring him on. What's going on, sir? How you doing? Oh no, hold on. Go ahead. Go ahead, Aaron. I don't think we caught you initially.
All right. Hey, it's good to see you. Thanks for having me back on. I thought we'd be, seeing each other, in person this year, but fingers crossed for next year, right?
Indeed, man. And of course, I have my second guest host. You guys have seen him on many of the episodes that I've had here over on Movers and Shakers Unlimited. He is the con connoisseur that I have, coined him for our show, providing the reviews for many of the cons. It is my pleasure to welcome back Chris Pabon. Let me bring him on. All right, one sec. Hello, sir.
Hi, Brandon, and hello to all the fans of the show. Bienvenidos a todos los amigos y amigas del programa. Look forward to talking to you about all things San Diego Comic-Con at Home.
All right, awesome. So let's dig right in. First and foremost, I just wanted to, get into that idea of just checking in. As I said in the prior episode, it has been an 18 months, and that is, an understatement. So with that being said, I know for a few of you, I mean, Chris, we've connected, since then. But I guess I'll start off with you, Aaron. How have things been, and how just checking in. How have things been?
Well, as you can tell, my hair's a little bit longer from last
time
I was on. I've really just been working a lot of freelance jobs. I'm doing a lot of contracting and building up my freelance business. So if people who don't know me, I'm a graphic designer by trade. During the pandemic, the company I was working at laid off everybody. So you just have to sort of go with the flow, and pivot when the timing is right. And luckily, I'm still able to find some freelance work out there that companies are still looking for work. So I've been fortunate. I've been making my ends meet, but it's not the same as earning living full time. But that's life, right? So
absolutely,
all you can do is just take it day by day.
Absolutely. And Chris, as I said, we've had a chance to connect. We're on the same part of the U.S., same area, but still, perhaps I know a lot of things have happened even in the last couple of weeks. So, care to share?
Brandon, it's been a long winter, and I am so glad we're finally about to emerge from the other side of this tunnel. I have learned to appreciate the small things in life, like being in someone else's backyard. I will never take that for granted again.
Yeah, definitely. And with that being said, I feel that is a great segue into the next section of, of this discussion that we'll have. And that's just the idea of welcome back, maybe. So it's funny. And I mentioned this in the prior show too, but there have been some instances with talking with other friends, whether they have been in the UK, whether they've been in other parts of the world, and how they are handling or pivoting, as you were saying, Aaron, what the current landscape is, and whether it is safe to go to certain events, and if we are going to certain events, what protocols will be taking to ensure that it is a safe environment. And for some places, they haven't gotten there yet, and thankfully here in the US, we've been fortunate enough where some events have slowly started to rev back up. So with that being said, I know last year I was talking about, so what was your first San Diego Comic-Con? This year, I'm curious to know from either of you, what has been, if you've been back to the show thus far, what has that first show been? What has it been like? And if you haven't been to one, what will be your first show for either of you?
Well, last weekend I went to a book fair. It was an outdoor book fair. It was in North Park of San Diego. It took over like 2 blocks. It was put on by Verbatim Books. So I think I was looking at their Facebook invite, and I think they're expecting well over 1,500 people, maybe 1,000 people.
Yeah.
So luckily that North Park neighborhood, they're really supportive when it comes to the arts. So they had a really big turnout. There's definitely more people than I thought there would be. And if for all intents and purposes, it's almost like the pandemic wasn't happening. Like if you didn't see people wearing masks, or talking about it, or you would have thought that it was just life is back to normal. But
Yeah.
I had a good turnout. I saw my friends, SoCal Comics, my friend Keith Jones, he's the creator of the comic book The Power Knights, and he owns Kid Comics. There's a group of creators here in San Diego known as the Accidental Aliens. It was good to see them.
Cool.
There's another comic book studio, Little Fish comic book studio, and it's just good to see all these guys, because I haven't seen some of them in forever. So that was a good appetizer for things to come, I guess. So
yeah, definitely. And the thing that has been interesting for those, and I haven't had a chance to go to a live show. I have been to events, but in terms of like my cons, I haven't been to a live show as of yet. Next month probably will be my first induction, so to speak, in terms of con season. And it's really weird to think of August as being the beginning of my con season. Yeah. But that's just the nature of how this year has been. But what I have found fascinating, at least with those that I've reached out to and have been on the show and have gone to live shows thus far, and I'm interested to see how that's going to look as I go, to some of my first shows. It's still up TBD as to which one it will be, because it will probably be a couple next month. What the dynamic is, because I had Emily Whitten, who does a lot of. She did our American Gods show, and she provides some of the content that we do here. And she's also a comic creator, so like she was at Pensacon not too long ago, and she was talking about how interesting it was, or how fascinating it was, to kind of see the behavioral dynamic of I guess you can say the word that I'm looking for is courtesy, I guess. So, they, in certain group atmospheres where you can tell that people were kind of trying to figure out, okay, should I shake your hand? Like, is it okay if I shake your hand? Should I give you a pound? Should I give you an elbow bump? Like, what are you most comfortable with? Okay, that's what you're comfortable with. Okay, cool. Let me just do that. So like that dynamic of them trying to, like, people still trying to figure out how to interact after being apart for so long, and wanting to, interact the way they normally do, but understanding that everyone is not, there, there yet, whether you've been, vaccinated or not, like, they still may not be in a headspace where they feel comfortable enough to do that, which is, understandable, and being able to respect that and understand that. So that part, I'm interested to see how it will work once I go to my first show, and if it's the same, now that it's a constantly, you know, as we all know, week to week is a constantly changing thing. So
I think probably if you go to a multi-day con, you'll first be starting out as, you know, with a pound and maybe elbows, but probably at the end you'll be giving hugs probably.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So with that being said, I want to be able to hop into SDC optics, and the thing that's cool about this with this second episode is that unlike my first episode, we haven't, you know, really gotten into programming with Comic-Con, and we can do that now, as you know, we've had much of that programming air as of this point. So, you know, have you guys had a chance, you know, to check out any, and if you haven't even, you know, are there some that you're looking to check out over the course of this weekend?
Since I went first, I'll let Chris go first this time.
All right.
I just want to reassure all my coworkers that might somehow be viewing this that I, of course, spent the whole day at work. But as for shows that I look forward to, I mean, I look forward to seeing, you know, what's up with the He-Man on Netflix.
Sure, yeah.
I want to see all this Marvel has to bring about, like X-Men and the next chapter of their story, which is, I think, oh God, now I'm just blanking on the name. It's not Apocalypse, of course. It's the next chapter of what's happening in Krakoa with the X-Men.
Right.
Definitely looking forward to the panel on Fear State, because that's going to cover all the Batman books pretty much for the rest of the year. And we got a glimpse in the Future State books of what Gotham City is going to look like under the Magistrate. So I want to learn more about, like, you know, what they have, you know, in mind going forward. So it's the comic book panels I'm most looking forward to.
Gotcha. Yeah. And I guess in the same way, you know, it's a bummer that we won't have Marvel and DC to, you know, have their normal slate. I mean, it is understandable under the circumstances of what we saw last year of them kind of doing their own thing, and in lieu of how the first year went for Comic-Con at home, it's understandable too, which actually I want to get into that as well, because I find that idea, that trend fascinating. And I'm going to ask not just you guys, but many of the other folks that will be on here, you know, over the course of this weekend. And it's just that idea of, I know you guys said that you would be looking into the programming, but one thing that has been fascinating is I feel like the drop off, and maybe, I don't know if you guys are feeling the, you know, are coming across the same thing, at least with other friends, is just that idea of, you know, that first year, because it was so new, of having Comic-Con happen at home. You know, there was such an excitement, it seemed like, about it, or an anticipation of, okay, what are they going to do? Like, how are they going to execute this? Because, like, you know, it's nothing. Comic-Con is such a unique experience, being in having it done live, and how are they going to, you know, provide that same experience virtually? And I'm sure, you know, they're going to do something really cool. And it seemed like after, you know, the dust has settled after that first year, now that we're here back again doing Comic-Con at home, and mind you, which we'll get into too, there is a show happening later on this year, but I came across a lot of, you know, folks, you know, and even mutual friends of ours, Aaron, you know, where they're going to another live show, like they say they'll catch it when they catch it, or it's just like it's in the rearview mirror, and it's not really something that you feel that same anticipation for. So have you guys, like, either of you, you know, come across that in terms of what has happened with the second year?
I think people's expectations have already been set, in my opinion, for, you know, in lieu, I mean, especially from, you know, looking at what they had last year and then seeing it's pretty much the same this year. You know, I think people are just wanting to go back to the live show, and there is no replacing that. And that just goes to show, even with Comic-Con at home, I mean, there's only so much you can do with pre-recorded video, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Chris?
Well, I will say that last year I found that the lines for the bathroom were much, much smaller, and the food was much better. But at the end of the day, I do agree. There is nothing that's a substitute for being there live, because you can be with your friends. It's sort of the ambiance. I mean, you're like missing that when you're at home. I mean, yeah, it might be easier to get into the panels, but you know, it's just not the same.
Yeah, I think that's one thing. I mean, about the panels, having everything sort of live and you can watch it whenever you want, is sort of democratizes everything, because you know you give the same amount of attention to the bigger panels that could have been on Hall H to the smaller panels. Like my friend Vince of India hosted a panel this morning about API and API creators, you know, and he did a good job. So shout out to you, Vince. And there's a lot of cosplay panels. You know, there's a pretty good Stansakai panel. There's an independent comics panel. Even Kevin Eastman's having a panel. I think my friend David Avalone is going to be part of that.
Okay.
So
and correct me if I'm wrong. Eastman lives in San Diego, so like, I mean,
I think he has a home here.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if he's here full time, but I mean, he did have a studio at the you know that museum that they had at where's that place, Liberty Station.
Yes.
But it's not there anymore. But unfortunately, it was pretty cool. I mean, like Sergio Aragones and Mark Evanier, they're always good together. They're going to be having a panel. There's a few other diversity panels. So you know, a lot of these smaller panels get to see some spotlight, which I think it's a good thing.
Definitely. And I'm sorry, guys, I didn't preface this, but Aaron lives in San Diego, so you know, a lot of these things that you know we enjoy, he's able to look at every single day. Maybe a good thing, maybe a bad thing, I don't know.
I'm
completely jelly here, completely jelly.
So with that being said, switching gears to the as Alyssa put it last episode, TurkeyCon. What are your thoughts on us having this? I guess you can say this succinct, condensed, express version, if you will, live show happening. I guess we can say Black Friday weekend. You know, what are your thoughts on it, and what are your plans for it?
For me, I'll be checking it out because it's really not much of a big deal for me because I live in San Diego. But you know, I'm just imagining how it is for people who are out of town, even for some of the vendors, just the logistics, and you know, taking time away from the family. I think having that event Thanksgiving weekend is a huge mistake. I would have switched it to another weekend.
Yeah, Chris.
Yeah.
I completely agree. I'm guessing they're holding it on Thanksgiving because New Year's and Christmas were booked. But yeah, if you're in San Diego, it's a little bit easier, right? But if you're like us, you're on the East Coast. I mean, the only time worse than around Memorial Day for flying is like around Thanksgiving, right? Where the prices for the hotels get jacked up, the airlines get jacked up. I mean, it's just a very costly and very time-consuming time to try to like schlep from one side of the coast to the other. There's a lot of other dates I wish they had considered. They didn't. They're moving forward with this, so a little easier for people who are there in San Diego. But for the rest of us, no. But you know, vendors and celebrities have families, and I like to think that one of the few remaining times that we emphasize family is around Thanksgiving. So, I mean, I think the vendors and celebrity guests should be with their families, not having to go to a con. So I'm in complete agreement that, you know, they should have chosen another day. And to quote the great Jeff Goldblum, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Indeed. Indeed. And so, you know, with that being said, you know, I'm just curious, and maybe you guys have another, you know, perspective on this, is what that will look like once we're there, because it's, as I said at the top, is that we've been away for, well, I guess just to be general, like I said, 18 months, and I'm sure that there is an anticipation of being able to get back to normalcy and be able to get back to the show in whatever form it takes. So the question becomes, yeah, you have the show happening at that time, but will it really discourage people from going? And I can see both sides of it, where, like, as you guys were saying, it's such a family oriented holiday. Not to say that Christmas and the other ones aren't, but it is so synonymous, with, being together with your family. Will that really discourage the numbers that we're normally accustomed to seeing for Comic-Con? Or will folks bypass, the holiday completely and make that their Thanksgiving, and somehow plan a Thanksgiving holiday around that weekend and still go, but still have, events or things that they do, in other wee hours of the show when they're not physically, on the grounds, that, still provides them that kind of Thanksgiving atmosphere. And I mean, if we still have it too, maybe Comic-Con, being aware of that, they might do something special for, it's not unheard of, where they kind of go above and beyond and have something, because they understand that it is a Thanksgiving weekend. It would be interesting to see. I don't know what your thoughts on it are, maybe, where you guys fall or where you think it might fall, but I think it's an interesting experiment is not the right word, but an interesting interesting to see, what the outcome will be of that. I don't know how either of you guys feel on that.
Well, my general con experience is usually, if I'm not at a panel, smaller panels, I'm usually in Artist Alley, small press, and visiting, people like Tony Gim at Here Within at his booth, and similar booths like that. So, I think this scaled out version will benefit a lot of the independent artists that I usually have on the Hall H show. So I think it'll be definitely more of an emphasis on the smaller exhibitors, Artist Alley, and small press, and some interesting panels. Hopefully, I don't think the Hollywood presence will be there, so it'll be mostly locals, and maybe LA, Orange County. But other than that, maybe it'll approach somewhat a level of WonderCon. We'll see, but I mean, that might be stretching it.
For sure.
But who knows? Well, I'm even though it's on a Thanksgiving weekend, I'm still hoping that it'll be somewhat of a relative success for them.
Definitely. Chris?
Well, as we've all seen over the last 18 months, we live in strange times. And so could this succeed? I mean, it's possible, but at what level are we going to measure success? Are we going to measure success as in it's going to be like a July SDCC? I mean, it really depends on they're defining the metric for success. I agree that I think this is going to be more locally based, with like independent artists. I don't think they're going to be able to get like, the very large guests to attend. So it depends really on how they're going to define success or what their metric is. I mean, will it be at the level of July? No, of course not. Could they obtain like, some small level with independent artists and local people? Perhaps. I mean, we'll have to see.
Definitely. And with that being said too, because I didn't even get into this, is what will that, once we're at that show, will it be, same as usual for you, or do you feel, I know Chris, is going to be unique for you if you decide to go, because it would be a unique time to go for your first time, but at least for you, Aaron, do you think it would just be, same as usual, or do you feel like, that approach is going to be slightly different under the circumstances?
Well, I think by the time, hopefully Delta doesn't become Epsilon or whatever. So hopefully it doesn't get crazy, but I'm expecting more cons to happen between now and, San Diego Comic-Con 2022. So people were already have been going to cons before then. So I think it may feel kind of close to normal by the time 2022 comes around. Chris, hopefully I get to see you and I get to buy you your first fish taco at the sales pavilion. How about that? That'd be kind of cool.
I look forward to standing in the line for those fish tacos.
Definitely, definitely. And I guess to be and I apologize. I guess in being more specific, versus with San Diego at home specifically, for their live edition, do you picture that your routine will be slightly different, or will it be the same?
Oh, I see. So Comic-Con at home this year versus last year.
Well, I was saying the live show that we'll have in a little bit come November.
Oh, the TurkeyCon.
Yeah, TurkeyCon. There you go. Man, I gotta get it away. I blame you, Alyssa, for putting that in my ear. But okay,
Alyssa, brand that right now. Copyright it.
But yeah, but no. Do you feel like that routine will be the same as usual, or do you think that you will make adjustments here and there under the circumstances?
Oh, I think of course, when it comes to social distancing and taking those sort of precautions, that'll be a little bit different. But in terms of me,
your content,
yeah, my content, it'll still pretty much be the same status quo. Artist Alley, the unique smaller panels, and trying to score some podcast interviews. So that's pretty much my MO at all the Comic-Cons I go to, or any con I go to.
Sweet. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting to see how that weekend goes, whether it's with the, programming, as you said, or whether it's with the, what people are able to bring, because if it's far more condensed, that means that it's the budget that we're picturing, for a lot of the, organizations is going to be far different. So, we're not going to have, that normal typical experience of stepping foot outside and being hit up by 60 different volunteers with, random swag that they like, oh, here's a sticker. Oh, here's a pin. Oh, here's a sticker. Here's a flyer. Here's it'll be interesting to see, how that dynamic is, with, as I said, far fewer days, but also under the circumstances of where they placed it. So, yeah, it will definitely be fascinating to see, what comes of this upcoming show. But with that being said, it's great to see the show come back in some form. So, even if it is for a couple of days, for them to kind of slowly rev back into gear.
And maybe that's what the whole logic is behind everything, because they do realize that Comic-Con at home can only go so far. Who's to say? Obviously that Thanksgiving weekend isn't the greatest time to hold an event, but maybe they kind of saw that the convention center was open that weekend. Nobody was biting to nail that date down for another convention, and they said, you know what, let's just see what happens and at least have that connection, a live connection with people. So. Definitely.
And to close it off, guys, what are your theories, under the circumstances of having all of these virtual shows and having, us being fortunate where we are, where a lot of shows are starting to pop back up and to start back up. What do you foresee as some things going forward that now, under the circumstances of what's happened the last 18 months, what's happened under the last 18 months, how cons will be different going forward? Are there some things that you feel that, will forever change with, con culture and with our shows?
Chris, you want to go first?
Well, the first thing that's going to change for me personally is, so I'm getting ready to go to my first live show in about 18 months. Just got my pass for Otakon. Shout out to the people at Otakon.
Yep.
So I'm probably going to be pulling a Red Guardian, and I'm looking at my Metal Bat cosplay, and I'm going to be, it can fit.
Nice.
So fitting into my cosplay is the first thing. In terms of how things are going to change, I mean, I think Houston-Apalooza gives us a good idea of what's coming. There were a lot of Instagram posts over how that went, and I think we're going to see guards at the tables, not physical guards, but like those plastic guards that you see at banks. think you're going to see a lot of those at the tables where you probably will get your SIG either through a slot or handed to you by one side. I think photo ops will be either with a plastic barrier or with some type of, the guest with some type of face shield. I know that if you look in the fine print for the AwesomeCon photo agreements, they say there will be no physical contact allowed.
Yeah.
I think that you're probably going to see at different venues like dedicated traffic lanes, or like, going this way and coming back this other way.
Or not being able to go through certain doors. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. I think.
Hey.
Shout out for the show from the wife here.
Hello.
I think that yeah, you're going to see, instead of mingling, you're going to see like dedicated traffic lanes. I think you're going to see like cleaners or cleaning substances all over the place. I think you'll see masks at all times, at least throughout the year. And, that's also just for liability issues, both for this venue that's hosting all of these people and for the con organizers, anything to minimize the risk of someone coming back and saying, well, I got Delta here.
Yeah.
And, as far as the enthusiasm, I think you're going to see it's going to be there. People are really chomping at the bit to get back. But I think the other thing we're going to see in the short term, at least up until December, January, is we're going to see sort of this gold rush, because people are going to be rushing to start their shows, even on dates that traditionally not associated with, like Emerald City Comic Con is going to be in December this year, same as C2E2. I mean, you're just going to see a glut of shows back to back. I mean, here in Washington, D.C., over August 18th, we're going to have 3 cons at the same time. We're going to have AwesomeCon, we're going to have NostalgiaCon, and we're going to have, it's like, where, and States in Unity. It's like, where do I go?
Right.
And then the other thing, I think we're going to see a lot more last-minute cancellations that we used to, because I think as film production for shows are starting up again, they're going to try to make up time wherever they can.
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. So that'll mean a lot of guests who probably have the good intention of coming will have to at the last moment be like, I can't come, which is going to force con organizers to have like a deep B stable of people they can call immediately if the A team has to guests have to cancel. So definitely a few changes, but I would not be surprised if when I go to my first live con at Otakon that I'm just going to see a massive amount of people, because people are chomping at the bit. The energy is there. They are ready to go back. It's, they are people who are dying of thirst, and these cons are a big, tall glass of water. They're just going to lunge forward.
For sure. And with that being said, guys, I want to thank you guys so much for hopping on here on Friday. I know it's also a work day for you guys, so being able to squeeze that into your schedule, I really do appreciate it. Before I let you guys go, can you tell folks where they can find you? Whoever would like to go first.
Aaron.
Sure. Thank you. You can find me at Aaron, AARON, .hallh.com. You can find all my information there for all my social media links and to learn more about me. I'm the co-host of the Holly Show podcast, and we sort of tout ourselves as the voice of indie pop culture creators. So please give us a listen. And Brandon, thanks again for having me on. And Chris, it was nice to meet you.
Cool. Cap, you're up.
All right. Well, first of all, Aaron, I really look forward to next year sharing some fish tacos with you. People can follow me on Instagram at Verde Cosplay. And if you happen to be at AwesomeCon, 5:30, room 143 on the Friday, come to my panel and learn who is worthy of lifting Mjolnir.
All right. Sounds good. There you guys have it. So again, I'm your host, Brandon Choi, host and co-creator of Movers and Shakers Unlimited. You can find me down below at Brandon Choi ENT on Twitter and Brandon Choi _ENT on Instagram. And on Twitter, you can find us at Move and Shake UNLTD, on Instagram at Movers Shakers Unlimited. Other than that, again, I want to thank my hosts for this episode for hopping on and talking about Comic-Con at home. Thank you guys so much for watching. Be safe out there, and see you soon.
Peace. Cheers. Talk to you later.